Nihilism. It's a philosophy that basically says nothing in life really has any meaning. People who believe in this idea are called nihilists. And nihilists, they don't believe in anything. Not knowledge, not actions, not fate, not rebirth, not even God. And honestly, not even themselves. To them, everything just feels empty, meaningless. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds super negative and kind of depressing, right? To be honest, I used to feel the same way. I thought I had a strong mindset, a solid perspective on life. But looking back, was it really that strong? Just a heads up before we dive in. This video isn't neutral, and it's definitely not positive. Most of what I talk about here leans into a pretty dark perspective. I tried to keep it balanced. I really did. But I just couldn't. And maybe after watching this, you'll start questioning things about your own life, things you never thought twice about before. That's why I want to give you a little warning ahead of time. What you do next is totally up to you. Let's rewind, where it all begins. So, nihilism, the word actually comes from Latin and it means nothing, like literally nothing at all. Now, nihilism is this idea that totally denies the fundamental parts of our lives. Because of that, it makes you start questioning your own thoughts. If the foundation of your beliefs and thinking gets weak, nihilism can just tear it apart easily. It basically says that the universe, life, or stuff like knowledge, none of it has any real built-in meaning. We're the ones who create meaning, because honestly, sometimes we just fool ourselves. And how true that really is? Well, that's something only you can figure out. By the way, nihilism is extreme pessimism, the belief that life is full of suffering and completely hopeless, and radical skepticism, the idea of doubting everything, even reality itself, are both often linked to nihilism. And while these three might sound similar at first, they're actually quite different once you dig deeper. There are many branches of nihilism, but today, we're going to break down the three most important ones. Let's start with the first. Existential nihilism. The name says it all. According to this idea, there is no deeper purpose behind our lives, no ultimate reason for why we exist. We create our own meaning, just so we can feel like we matter. But the truth is, the universe doesn't care about us, not even a little. As philosopher David Hume once said, to the universe, there's no real difference between the life of a human and the life of an insect. Because when compared to the scale of the cosmos, our lives are completely insignificant. No matter how important we try to make ourselves, no matter how many layers of meaning we try to add to our lives, the truth remains the same. Our lives have no inherent meaning. The world has kept spinning long before we existed, and it'll keep spinning long after we're gone. Whether we're here or not, it doesn't make a difference. We don't know how far the universe stretches. We don't know its size. We don't know where it began, or where it ends. All we really have are fragile human-made theories that we repeat over and over until we believe they're true. We're always looking for a reason, some justification for why we're here. But the real issue is this: we just can't accept how small we actually are. So instead of facing reality, we try to force meaning onto everything. We give everything a purpose, even when there isn't one. But in the end, the truth is simple. There's no grand reason behind our existence, and no cosmic value to our lives. Epistemological nihilism. In epistemological nihilism, we question the very idea of knowledge. According to this view, knowledge either doesn't exist at all, or if it does, it's beyond human understanding. Let me explain with an example. Gravity was discovered by Newton. You believe it? And so do I. Newton's contribution to physics is undeniably huge. If gravity had never been discovered, we might have been far behind where we are today. It surely impacted human progress. But did it affect the universe? Not at all. Gravity was always there, for centuries, maybe forever. We just happened to find it a few hundred years ago. This universe is so massive, We can't even begin to grasp its true scale. So, what do you think? Do you believe gravity is the biggest mystery out there? Or could the universe be hiding truths far more complex? A universe that formed billions of years ago, and we, in just a few short centuries, are trying to understand it and calling it knowledge. That in itself feels like an insult to the very idea of knowledge. Now, according to scholars, Hinduism is believed to be the oldest religion, founded around 2300 BCE, nearly 4,300 years ago, and most other major religions came even later. Now consider this. How old is the universe believed to be? Around 13.7 billion years. Let that number sink in. Just compare the time difference. Now you might be wondering, why am I talking about religion? Because it's through religion that we were introduced to the idea of God, whether it's Ram, Allah, or Jesus. All references to God come from religious scriptures. But do you know who wrote these scriptures? Exactly. Now you see where I'm going with this. This is how nihilism challenges all human knowledge. Because whether we accept it or not, in comparison to the universe, our knowledge is practically meaningless. Moral nihilism. Morality. It's a heavy word. One of those big concepts our entire society seems to be built on. Morality means knowing what's right and what's wrong. But here's the question. What even is right? What even is wrong? You might say, come on, that's a stupid question. Well, forget that for a second. Let's look at something real. Let's say there are two people. We'll call them A and B. They get into an argument at the market. The reason? Something small. But in the heat of the moment, A shoots B. Now tell me, morally speaking, who's in the wrong? Most of us would say, obviously A, he killed someone. Okay, now let's tweak the situation. Same people, same fight. A shoots B, but this time, B is a serial killer, and A knows it. Now who's in the wrong? You might say, well, maybe A had a reason, maybe he was protecting others. All right, one more version, same fight. A shoots B. B is still a serial killer, but this time, A didn't know that. So now what? From these three examples, one thing becomes pretty clear. Morality isn't fixed, it's not solid. It shifts based on situation, context, and perspective. That's why morality ends up looking like a fantasy. Something we create just to justify the way we think, to convince ourselves that we're right, and maybe even better than others. That's exactly what moral nihilism says. Morality? It's not some universal truth. It's a human-made idea, a concept we built, so we could feel like we stand on higher ground. And that's the harsh truth. Real morality doesn't exist. There's no ultimate good or evil. There's just us, trying to make sense of a messy world. This video has been pretty negative so far. Let's shift things a little and bring in something positive. Something that reminds us why we keep asking these big questions in the first place. Because even if morality isn't absolute, even if there's no universal right or wrong, we still care. We still feel. We still try to protect the ones we love. We try to help. We try to do what's right, even if we can't always define what that is. And maybe that's what really matters. Maybe morality doesn't come from some higher law written in the stars. Maybe it comes from us, from the way we live, from the way we treat each other, from the meaning we choose to give it. Moral nihilism doesn't have to be the end of meaning. It can be the beginning of freedom, a reminder that we get to write our own story, that we don't need the universe to validate our choices. We do that ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Optimistic nihilism, the only positive part of nihilism. If everything is meaningless, it means nothing you do really matters. Your mistakes, your failures, your embarrassments, they're all meaningless. So why worry about anything? No one's judging you. You can live life your way. No pressure from anyone. No worries about the past, no fear of the future, no grand purpose, no struggle. You live because you want to live. If nothing really matters, then why not live on your own terms? But one thing you have to accept: you're not special. And that's not a bad thing. Because once you accept this truth, you're free. Free to live without limits, without fear, and fully on your own terms. No expectations, no rules but the ones you choose. That is the real power of optimistic nihilism. You are not special. And worse than that, you are worthless. No human can truly accept this. And that's why we strongly oppose nihilism. We see nihilism as a baseless philosophy. I too believe, or at least want to believe, that nihilism is baseless. But imagine, what if in the end, nihilism is true? Your things, your actions, your pain, your suffering, your desires, your expectations, your relationships, your dreams, your life, all meaningless. Imagine spending your entire life chasing something, only to find out in the end that it meant nothing. Imagine if your whole life is just your biggest hollow realization. So don't think about it too much. Because what if this meaninglessness is actually a form of freedom? What if by accepting that nothing has inherent meaning, you get to create your own purpose? You're no longer bound by society's rules or anyone's expectations. You get to choose your values. You get to define what matters to you. And that freedom, that power, is what makes life truly worth living. So even if nihilism is true, it's not a sentence to despair. It's an invitation to live fully, on your terms. Think about it. What if your entire life was just your biggest hollow illusion? That's why, don't think too much, because it is meaningless. Whether it's your thoughts or your life, it doesn't really matter.